From high atop the hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains, it's time for Downrange Radio and your host, Michael Bain.
I'm Michael Bain, and this is Downrange Radio, which is, of course, tethered to the mothership, Downrange Television, by an unbreakable stainless steel umbilical cord. You know, as we sail toward the autumnal equinox, we got to get ready here at the Secret Hidden Bunker for some witches' sabbats. There's probably going to be some sacrifices. You know what? If I was a goat, I do not think I would be sleeping easily right now. And, of course, our first segment, our first 15 minutes is video, followed by 30 minutes of audio. So I want to show you a little bit things that come in the mail. This is what came in the mail this week. And, of course, if you're only listening, let me read it to you. Help me, Apex. You're my only hope. Sometimes I think that Randy and Scott and Paul Earhart out there in Arizona with Apex should probably be renamed Curly, Larry, and Moe. A little bit later in the fall, we're going to be doing some work with Randy Lee at Apex. He is resurrecting the 356 TSW cartridge, a cartridge that was originally, I think, invented by Smith & Wesson for competition use. And the story of how it became accepted as a competition cartridge and then not accepted as a competition cartridge is a long, grim story in and of itself. So we're not going to go there. But Randy feels the cartridge is something that shouldn't have gone away. He's doing a lot of work on it. So we'll probably see some conversion guns from 9mm. I also reached out to Randy and said, what would you think if we did a blowback carbine? And he said, that should work, and as long as it doesn't end up in pieces in my head. So I want to show you a rifle here that you're certainly familiar with. This is my Ruger Gunsight Scout. It is a first-generation early production Scout, very early on. This is a gun you've seen on Shooting Gallery before. You're going to see it again in our Africa episodes. We've talked about it a lot. It is, for all intents and purposes, my workhorse gun. It's a gun that's been through classes. It's a gun that's been on multiple continents hunting. It's a gun that I have pretty much absolute faith in. So while Richard Mann and I are sitting at the campfire in South Africa in June, Richard said, what would you think of a 6.5 Creedmoor Scout? And I said, I don't know, Richard. You know, would the velocity loss offset the advantage of reduced recoil? And Richard said to me, he goes, well, did the velocity loss on 308, you know, offset the convenience of the gun, going from, 308, typically a 22-inch barrel, down to 16-inch barrels? I said, no, it never did. And I said, basically, it didn't do that because of the rise of the AR-10, the perfection of the AR-10 platform, and the proliferation of the AR-10 platform, where everybody became comfortable with the idea of 16.5-inch barrels on a 308. And he goes, I think a 6.5 Creedmoor Scout might be the sweet spot. It might be every bit as effective as a 308, which we proved in Africa in terms of hunting, in terms of self-defense, in terms of a good gun to take to class and train with a bolt-action rifle, an easy gun to carry. And so, well, I don't know. Let's see how that works out. And in front of you right here is how it worked out. This is the very new Ruger Gunsight Scout in 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, Ruger snuck this gun out. It didn't a big announcement. I didn't get my usual press release from Ruger. Instead, the gun sort of popped up on Davidson's Gallery of Guns. And it said, soon available, the Ruger Gunsight Scout in 6.5 Creedmoor. And I reached out to Ruger and I said, boy, as soon as those things are available, let me know. And the person I work with there, she's a wonderful person, said, well, Michael, if you got some cash, we got one line around the office that has been used, but not very. Test gun. I said, send it. So this is 6.5 Creedmoor. I just got it, just picked it up last week. It's very similar to all the other guns in the Ruger Gunsight Scout series, the 223, the 450 Bushmaster, the 308. And, it's basically AI magazine, feeds from an AI magazine. You've got the forward-mounted rail. You have the backup iron sights. This particular version comes with a flash hider, which, out of here, I don't need to hide the flash. Generally, what I do is I go to a DPMS Michelin brake. I think you guys know that. And Ruger changed. Originally my rifle is one of the Ruger laminated stocks, and it's a little heavy. And then 4 years ago, Ruger introduced a polymer stock. They began making polymer stocks that probably took a pound and a quarter off the Scout rifle. So this gun, The 6.5 Creedmoor Scout comes with a polymer stock. It's in Digicam, washed in Digicam. It's a really good-looking gun. It's 7.3 pounds without the optic. That's good. Barrel length is a little longer. Interestingly enough, it's 18.7. I looked it up, an 18.7-inch barrel. So typically, with the 6.5 Creeds, you're at 22-24. And here you're going to an 18.7. And right now, I can't answer the question that you have. The question that you have is, what kind of velocity hit did you take? And then how does this gun perform, with, say, the Hornady ELDX long-range bullets? I can't answer those questions today. I'll be able to answer them by the end of the week. We're going to set up my regular hunting rifle, 24-inch 6.5 Creed, and this gun and my precision rifle, which is also a 24-inch 6.5 Creedmoor, and run them past a lab radar, Doppler radar setup, and get some sense of velocity. And then I'm kind of limited in my ranges here. I have 300-yard ranges, but at the very least, we can take it out to 300, and we can work from there. But anyway, I wanted to show you this. I want to tell you how excited I am. If Richard is right, if Richard Mann is right, and Richard Mann tends to be right more than he's wrong, then maybe the 6.5 Creedmoor is a sweet spot for scout-type rifles. So we're going to see. We're going to see. Next thing I wanted to show you, because it's just pretty. Golly gee, look at that. Isn't that spiffy? This is from Cimarron Firearms, my friends at Cimarron down in Fredericksburg, Texas. I've worked with them a lot over the years, and they are good friends. I mean, we used to film cowboys in Fredericksburg. And so there's a big shop down there, the Texas Jack Cowboy Store. And we spent a lot of time hanging around there, and we took the guys out a lot that worked there. And a lot of times we would be panicky. We'd be like 20 miles out of town on set, and we'd need something desperately. And one of us would drive like a complete lunatic, which in Texas is to say drives like everybody else, to Texas Jacks and say, oh, man, do you have X? I need this gun. I need this ammunition. I need da-da-da. And they're always like, yes, we've got it. Don't worry. Everything is covered. But in the last year and a half, 2 years, Cimarron has really ramped up their game. They've reached out across a very broad spectrum. You've also seen that with the other cowboy suppliers. For example, Taylor's, which has reached into tactical guns and some really interesting firearms we've talked about previously. I would say the reason for this is the flattening or decline of the cowboy market, the cowboy action shooting market. I can't swear that's true. But generally, when you see the firearms companies that service a niche branching out into some other product, it's a sure sign that their core market is static. And, of course, right now, this is the worst market for the firearms industry in a long, long time. People are bleeding. But Cimarron's been launching a bunch of neat new products, and they called me up and they said, we got this 44 Magnum. It's called the Bad Boy. And it rocks, and we'd like you to see it, and we'd like you to shoot it, because we know you're a 44 Magnum guy, which if you've been watching this stuff, you know I'm a 44 Magnum guy. So what we have here that you can't see if you're only listening is the Bad Boy from Cimarron in 44 Magnum. Now, it's a couple of interesting points I want to bring out to you here. Number one, this is an octagonal barrel. Speaking as a guy who loves octagonal barrels, that's like, waving a red flag in front of a bull. Octagonal barrels are you kind of come and go with them. Some people really don't like them. I really like them. This is an 8-inch octagonal barrel, which makes it look like a really, really neat gun. A couple other things I just wanted to point out. Obviously, you've got a fully adjustable rear sight. You've got a ramped front sight. You got the top of the frame is drilled and tapped, and I would assume that's a scope mount. If you pull the rear sight and you drilled and tap, however, it would be a crime to put a scope on this gun. This gun is just beautiful. One of the things that I really like about it, it's interesting, and that's why I brought some of my Rugers out here, is take a look at the grip frame. Those are actually obviously really beautiful walnut grips, but take a look at this grip frame here, and now compare that to say this Ruger. That is an anniversary version of the 44 Magnum of 2006. That was 50 years of the 44 Magnum in 2006. You notice how I had to read that off the barrel, but I got it not to shoot it as much as just to collect it, and I've shot it a lot. It's a really ideal 44 Magnum to me in that it's a Blackhawk, not a Super Blackhawk. But look at the difference in the grip frames. The Rugers tend to hone to what we might call the Colt Standard, the 1873 Single Action Army Standard. And when you look here at the Cimarron grip frame, that's the grip frame more closely akin to the 1860 Army percussion gun. And one of the things that I've said to you guys before is that I think the 1860 Army is arguably one of the most beautiful handguns ever made. I think when you close your eyes and you go, ooh, and you visualize a handgun, what you see is the 1860 Army, because it has an elegance of line to it. And part of that elegance of line is the way that grip frame sits. So with this gun, it sits different. I mean, it's really odd to me because I'm so used to the Rugers, because from being a cowboy action shooter, that when I put this gun in my hand, I'm like, well, that's odd. I'm going to have to feel my way through it. It is a typical single action Army without a transfer bar. So you got half cock, then the cylinder rotates. They say there's a system in here where don't worry, you can still carry 6 in it. Don't carry 5 in an empty chamber. Cowboys did it. You should do it on a gun like this. You'll notice hammer-mounted firing pin. Trigger, I haven't run it on my Lyman digital gauge, but I'm going to say, I'm going to call that probably 3.75, 4 pounds. It's light. It is a beautiful gun. Now, I have not shot it yet. Here's what I anticipate, and you'll be able to see some video of that. It's going to kick like a crazy man. It's going to kick like a mule on meth. Why? Lighter gun, a little bit of different grip frame. Not as beefy as, let me just show you another one. This is one of my other favorite 44 Magnums. It is a Super Blackhawk Hunter that has been overhauled by Hamilton Bowen. Once again, a gun that I've had for a long time, set up for hunting. And you'll see the relative increased beefiness of the Super Blackhawk there. And, it's not a huge difference, but you can clearly see if you're looking at the guns side by side, you can see a beefiness in the Super Blackhawk frame that allows it to really whack on some of those larger cartridges. So, gun's rated for plus P. It should be rated for any cartridge. I would suspect that the heavy bullet Garretts do not belong in this gun. Whether the pressures or whatever, it doesn't really make any difference. But the heavy bullet Garretts, the heavy duty Buffalo bore, would be like really, really, really unpleasant to shoot in this light a gun. Whereas, boy, you know what? 44 Special plus P, boom, that's the gun. Italians have been making 44 Magnums for a long time. This gun was made by Uberti, and interestingly enough, to Cimarron spec. And Uberti also offers versions of this gun now that Uberti's in the country on its own. Taylor's has a number of guns. I'm not sure whether they're from Pieta or Uberti. I think Pieta. In 44 Magnum, Traditions Firearms offers the 44 Magnums. Essentially, the Italians have offered some incredibly beautiful 44 Magnums, but I love this gun. I think this gun is absolutely magnificent. I am so looking forward to shooting it, to put some rounds through it. You're going to see it. I do like the unflued cylinder on this gun. Unflued cylinder. No, how about an unflued cylinder? But, in fact, as soon as we get done here, I'm probably going to take it out to the range and start putting some rounds through it. First rounds I'll put through it are baseline 44 Magnum rounds, 240 grain jacketed hollow point, Black Hills. I got a lot of them. And then I'll wear a glove. But it'll be fun to shoot. But I'm telling you right now, as a 44 Special plus P, this is the gun. It is a beauty. So we've got another 30 minutes of chitty chat when I get back. And again, a lot of things going on, a lot of things to talk about this week. So stay with us, and Downrange Radio will return.